I'm sitting here in my apartment in Chiang Mai, staring at a stack of receipts that tell the story of how I lost $85,000. Not to a stranger on the internet. Not to some obvious con artist. But to a woman I thought I loved. A woman who let me believe we were building something together. Her name was Natie, and she never needed a husband. She needed a co-signer. This one was hard to revisit. I kept it buried for a while. But then a long-time viewer, someone who's been following this channel for over a year, reached out. He said, "I didn't lose my money in one big scam. I lost it the slow, quiet way through hope." That line hit different. At first, I didn't know what to feel. I just stared at it. Then this hollow sort of ache settled in my chest. Not because it hurt, but because it was true. There wasn't one big moment where it all collapsed. Just a slow drip. A signature here. A loan just for now. A promise to pay it back when things were more stable. And like him, I convinced myself that hope was proof of love. But it wasn't. And if you're sitting there thinking you might have done the same, you're not alone. I get it. I've lived it. So if you're watching this, take a second to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. Your words matter here. They help others speak up too. And to those of you who keep showing up, watching, commenting, supporting the channel with super thanks, thank you. You've made this space feel like more than just a place for regret. You've turned it into a kind of quiet healing. Alright, let me take you back to where it all started. It started 6 months ago in a cafe on Nimmenhamen Road. I was nursing my third cup of coffee, trying to shake off the jet lag that comes with starting over at 62. The receipt in my hand might as well have been written in hieroglyphics. That's when she appeared beside my table. "You look confused," she said with a smile that seemed genuine. "Can I help?" Her English was clear, touched with that soft Thai accent that made every word sound like music. I handed her the receipt, grateful for any human contact. "Ah, they charged you for extra sugar," she laughed. Very typical. She was wearing a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back in a way that made her look younger than she probably was. When she asked if I was new to Chiang Mai, I told her I was new to everything. New country. New life. New attempt at finding peace after a divorce that left me emptier than my house in Phoenix. The loneliness had been eating at me for months before I booked that one-way ticket to Thailand. I'd wake up in my empty house, make coffee for one, and wonder what the hell I was supposed to do with the rest of my life. "I'm Natie," she said, extending her hand. "And you look like someone who could use a friend." I was Russ Callahan, retired postal inspector, and yes, I could use a friend. More than I wanted to admit. We talked for 2 hours that first day. She told me about working in hotels, dealing with confused tourists like me every day. How she'd learned English from watching American movies and serving expat customers who couldn't speak Thai. I told her about 30 years of delivering mail, investigating fraud, and a marriage that died from neglect and boredom. About coming home every day to the same empty house, the same frozen dinners, the same silence that followed me from room to room. "You came here to heal," she said. It wasn't a question. When I nodded, she smiled again. "Good. Thailand is perfect for healing broken hearts." The way she said it made me believe her. Made me believe that maybe I could find something here that I'd never found back home, something that would make me feel alive again. Over the next few weeks, she became my guide to more than just the city. She showed me where to find the best som tam, which temples were worth visiting, how to negotiate with tuk-tuk drivers without getting ripped off. But more than that, she listened. Really listened. When I told her about feeling useless since retiring, about how 30 years of government work had prepared me for nothing except more government work, she shook her head firmly. "You're not useless. You just haven't found your purpose here yet." I started looking forward to our daily meetings. She'd text me in the morning, suggesting places to meet, things to see. "Good morning, Russ," she'd write. "Ready for another adventure?" Those simple messages became the highlight of my day. For the first time in years, someone was excited to see me. Someone had plans that included me. During one of our dinners at a little place near the old city, she started talking about her dream. "I want to open a restaurant," she said, her eyes lighting up in a way that made the whole room seem brighter. "Not fancy. Just good food, Thai and Western together. A place where people feel welcome." She drew pictures on napkins, sketching out seating arrangements, describing recipes her grandmother taught her before she died. I know it sounds silly, she said, suddenly looking vulnerable. A girl from Isan with big dreams. No, it doesn't, I replied, and I meant it. It sounds like exactly what this city needs. The way her face lit up when I said that, like I'd just given her permission to dream bigger, made something tight in my chest loosen for the first time in months. That's when everything changed. You understand business, she said, leaning forward with excitement. You could help me make this real. The way she said it made my chest tighten with something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The feeling that someone needed me for something that mattered. I don't know anything about restaurants, I told her. But you know about people, about trust, about building something that lasts. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her fingers were warm, her grip confident. We could be partners, business partners. The word partners hung in the air between us, loaded with possibility and promise. Within a month, we were spending every day together. She took me to see potential locations, empty storefronts with good foot traffic and reasonable rent. We'd walk through these spaces and she'd describe her vision with such passion that I could see it too. The bustle of a lunch rush, the satisfied faces of customers, the pride of owning something real and valuable. We sat in coffee shops with my laptop, researching suppliers, menu pricing, health department requirements. I felt more alive than I had in years. My brain, dormant for so long, was firing on all cylinders again. Look at this, she'd say, showing me restaurant supply catalogs on her phone. These tables would be perfect. And this espresso machine, it's exactly what we need. The way she said we made my heart race. We, us, together, building something that would last. I started helping her with the business plan. My years in government had taught me how to navigate bureaucracy, how to organize paperwork, how to present information in a way that made sense to officials. You're so good at this, she told me one evening as we finished updating the financial projections. I never could have done this alone. The gratitude in her voice, the way she looked at me like I was solving all her problems, made me feel like a hero. When she found a perfect spot on a busy street near the university, we both knew it was right. The space had been a small cafe before, so the basic infrastructure was already there. This is it, she whispered, standing in the empty space. I can see it all. The kitchen there, tables here, maybe a small bar in the corner where people can wait for their food. I could see it too. Our restaurant. Our future. The place where we'd work side by side, building something meaningful together. The lease required 6 months upfront plus a security deposit. $32,000 total, more money than she'd ever had access to in her life. I have some savings, she said, but I could see the worry in her eyes. But not enough, not even close. She looked at me with those dark eyes, vulnerable and hopeful and scared all at once. Would you consider investing? As my partner? I didn't hesitate. Of course. The words came out before I'd even thought about them. Here was this incredible woman, brilliant and ambitious, asking me to be part of something real, something that mattered. How could I say no? The money transfer took 2 days. $32,000, wired from my bank in Phoenix to a Thai bank account she'd set up for the business. When we walked into the rental office to sign the papers, my heart was pounding with excitement. This was it, the beginning of something real, something ours. But when the contract was placed in front of us, only her name was on it. Why isn't my name here? I asked, feeling the first flutter of unease. The rental agent, a thin man in his 50s who spoke broken English, looked confused by my question. Natie squeezed my hand under the table, her touch reassuring and warm. Thai law, she said quietly. Foreigners can't be legal owners of businesses like this. But you're my partner. That's what matters. She signed with a flourish, her handwriting neat and confident, then turned to me with a smile that made me forget my concerns. We're a real team now, she whispered. The renovation started immediately. Her cousin Teo handled the construction, a friendly guy in his 30s who spoke decent English and seemed to know everyone in the building trade. He had connections for everything we needed. Plumbers, electricians, painters, suppliers, family discount. He'd say with a grin whenever he presented an invoice. Every day brought new costs, new requirements, new opportunities to improve our space. I transferred money as needed, watching our dream take physical shape. $25,000 for the kitchen setup, stainless steel prep tables and commercial-grade equipment that would let us handle the lunch rush we were planning for. $15,000 for dining furniture, tables and chairs that struck the perfect balance between comfort and efficiency. $8,000 for the point-of-sale system and initial inventory, everything we'd need to open our doors and start serving customers. "Callahan and Nat Thai Kitchen," she said one evening as we stood in the half-finished space. "That's what we'll call it." She'd already had it painted on the window in both English and Thai script, our names intertwined in elegant lettering. Seeing our names together like that, I felt something I hadn't experienced since I was young. The thrill of building something from nothing. The pride of creating something that would outlast us both. But as opening day approached, small things started bothering me. My name wasn't on the business license that hung framed behind the register, or the health department permits posted in the kitchen, or the bank account where our daily receipts would be deposited. "It's complicated," she explained when I brought it up, showing me thick stacks of Thai government forms filled with bureaucratic language I couldn't understand. Thai regulations for foreign business owners are very strict. If they find out you're involved directly, they could shut us down. She showed me horror stories online about foreign investors losing everything to bureaucratic red tape, businesses closed overnight because of technicalities and paperwork errors. "We'll figure it out later," she promised, her hand on my arm. "After we're established and making money, then we can hire a lawyer to sort out the ownership properly." The grand opening was everything we dreamed it would be. The restaurant was packed from the moment we opened the doors at 11 in the morning until we finally closed at 10 that night. Local families came for lunch, ordering the pad thai and green curry that Natie had perfected in our test kitchen. Expat retirees stopped by for dinner, drawn by the familiar Western options on our fusion menu. University students filled the tables in the afternoon, nursing iced coffees while they studied for exams. Everyone seemed to love the menu, the atmosphere, the way Natie greeted each customer like family. I stood behind the bar, proud and slightly overwhelmed, watching her work the room with natural grace. She remembered names, asked about families, made jokes that had customers laughing and promising to return. This was what we'd dreamed of during all those planning sessions. A place that mattered to people. A place that felt like home. But something felt off. A nagging discomfort I couldn't quite identify. When people asked about the restaurant, she introduced herself as the owner. Just the owner. I was a friend who helped with the investment, or someone who believes in the vision. When a local food blogger wanted to interview the restaurateur behind Chiang Mai's newest fusion hotspot, she spoke for 30 minutes about her culinary philosophy and business plans without mentioning me once. "You don't want to be in the spotlight," she explained later when I asked about it. "Too much attention from immigration officials could cause problems for both of us." The problem started 3 weeks after opening. Business was booming, but I was slowly being pushed to the sidelines. First, she told me I didn't need to come in every day. "You're too stressed about the details," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Let me handle the daily operations. That's what I'm good at." Then she changed the locks without giving me a key. "Security upgrade," she explained when I arrived one morning to find I couldn't get in. We had some concerns about the old keys. Too many people had copies. When I tried to log into the point-of-sale system to check sales figures, my access had been revoked. "The system was glitching," she said. "Tu fixed it but had to reset all the passwords. I'll get you a new login soon." I started feeling like a stranger in the restaurant I'd paid to create. Staff members who used to greet me warmly when I arrived now barely made eye contact. The cheerful, "Good morning, Kun Russ," had been replaced by polite nods and quick looks away. When I asked Natie about the daily receipts, about how much money we were making, she said the accountant was handling everything and she'd show me the reports as soon as they're ready. Soon never came. Instead, she started canceling our regular dinners together. "Too busy with the restaurant," she'd say when I called. "You understand, right? This is what we wanted for the business to be successful." The final blow came on a Tuesday morning when I arrived to find the restaurant locked up tight with a "renovations in progress" sign on the door. No one had told me about any renovations. The dining room looked exactly the same through the windows, tables set for lunch service that would apparently never come. I called Natie repeatedly. No answer. I called Tiwu. Straight to voicemail. I went to her apartment building, a modest complex where she'd lived since moving to Chiang Mai from her village in Isan, but the security guard said she wasn't receiving visitors. That's when I went to the rental office. The same thin man who'd handled our original lease looked at me with confusion when I explained I was the restaurant's co-owner, here to find out what was happening with our space. "No, sir," he said, pulling up the file on his computer and frowning at the screen. "The lease is under Tiu Sriswan's name only. He signed a new 2-year agreement last month." My heart dropped into my stomach. "What about Natie?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "She's listed as the manager," he replied, still looking at his screen. "But she has no legal ownership of the lease." I sat in that office for 20 minutes, staring at documents that proved I owned nothing. The woman I'd given $85,000 to, the woman I'd trusted with my retirement savings and my heart, had never actually signed for the restaurant. Her cousin held the lease. She held nothing but my money and whatever was left of my dignity. When she finally answered my calls 3 days later, her voice was different. Cold, professional. The warmth that had drawn me to her in that first cafe meeting was completely gone. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep the desperation out of my voice. "Yes, we do," she replied. No apology, no explanation, just acknowledgement that a conversation was overdue. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Not the cozy place where we'd first gotten to know each other, but a busy, impersonal chain where we could blend into the crowd. She looked exactly the same, but somehow like a complete stranger. The woman who'd held my hand while we planned our future was gone, replaced by someone I'd never met before. "I know about the lease," I said, getting straight to the point. "I know Teo signed it, not you. I know you don't actually own the restaurant I paid for." She nodded calmly, stirring sugar into her coffee with the same methodical precision she'd once used to plan our menu. "Yes," she said, "that's correct. No explanation, no apology, no pretense that this was some misunderstanding we could work through." "So what was this?" I asked, hearing the desperation creep into my voice despite my efforts to stay calm. "What were we doing for the past 6 months?" She looked at me directly for the first time since sitting down, her dark eyes steady and unreadable. "You were helping me start a business," she said matter-of-factly. "I was grateful for that help." "I thought we were partners," I said, the words coming out strangled and pathetic. "I thought we were building something together." She shook her head slowly, like she was explaining something simple to a child who wasn't quite getting it. "You thought what you wanted to think," she said. "I never promised you ownership. I never promised you marriage. I accepted your help, and I used it well." The words hit me like physical blows, each one landing with the weight of truth I'd been avoiding for months. "You used me," I said finally, speaking the words I'd been afraid to think. "Yes," she replied without hesitation, without shame, without any emotion at all. "And you let me, because you wanted to feel important. You wanted to feel needed." She leaned back in her chair, studying me with the detached interest of someone examining an insect under glass. "You came to Thailand looking for something to make your life meaningful. I gave you that feeling. For 6 months, you felt useful and important and needed. That's what you paid for." I wanted to argue, to rage, to demand my money back, to call her every name I could think of and storm out of that coffee shop with whatever dignity I had left. But sitting there looking at her calm, unrepentant face, I realized she was right. I had let it happen. Every red flag, every inconsistency, every moment when my gut told me something was wrong, I had ignored it all because I wanted to believe in the dream more than I wanted to face the truth. I had thrown $85,000 at a fantasy because the fantasy felt better than my reality. "The restaurant is doing well," she said, checking her watch like she had somewhere important to be. "Teo is a good partner. He understands the business. We're opening a second location next month." She stood up, leaving exact change on the table for her coffee. "Thank you for your investment," she said, her tone as polite and impersonal as a bank teller. "It made everything possible." Then she walked away, leaving me alone with the ruins of my self-respect and the bitter taste of truth. That was 2 months ago. I still live in Chiang Mai, though I moved to a smaller apartment across town where the rent is cheaper and I can stretch what's left of my savings a little further. I avoid the area where our restaurant still operates under a new name, Teo's Kitchen, according to the updated signage I glimpsed from a passing taxi. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks about me, if she feels even a trace of guilt about what she did. But mostly I wonder how I became the kind of man who could lose $85,000 chasing the illusion of purpose. I've replayed every conversation, every moment, every decision that led me here. The truth is, I wasn't scammed by a criminal mastermind running some elaborate con game. I was used by someone who recognized exactly what I needed to hear and had the patience to let me convince myself that I mattered, that I was useful, that someone as vibrant and ambitious as Natie could see me as a partner worth having. She never lied about loving me because she never claimed to love me. She never promised me ownership because the paperwork spoke for itself. She simply let me believe what I desperately wanted to believe and accepted the money I desperately wanted to give. The worst part isn't the money, though $85,000 is a significant chunk of my retirement savings. The worst part is the clarity that came afterward. The realization that I was so hungry for purpose, so desperate to feel valuable again, that I ignored every warning sign. I threw money at a dream that was never really mine, with a woman who saw me as a solution to her problems rather than a partner in her life. I still eat alone most nights, still avoid making eye contact with strangers on the street. Sometimes I walk past the old location and see it bustling with customers, successful and thriving without me. The food is probably still good. The atmosphere is probably still welcoming. Everything we planned together exists exactly as we imagined it, except I was never actually part of the plan. People ask me if I'm going back to the States. Friends from Phoenix email asking when I'm coming home, if I'm ready to admit this Thailand experiment was a mistake. The honest answer is I don't know. Thailand wasn't the problem. Loneliness was the problem. The need to matter to someone was the problem. Those problems would follow me anywhere. At least here, I can be lonely in a place where the weather is warm and the food is good, and nobody knows I'm the fool who funded someone else's dream. I've started volunteering at an animal shelter outside the city, a ramshackle operation run by a Scottish expat who's been rescuing street dogs for 20 years. Dogs and cats don't care about your net worth or your relationship status. They just want attention, food, and a gentle hand. It's not the grand purpose I thought I'd found with Natie, but it's real. Nobody's using me for money. Nobody's pretending I'm more important than I am. I show up, I help, I leave. It's honest work for honest reasons. Maybe that's what I should have been looking for all along. Not someone to make me feel special, but something meaningful to do with my time. Not a partnership built on need and desperation, but simple human connection based on nothing more complicated than showing up and being useful in small, real ways. The hardest part about admitting you've been used is acknowledging your own role in it. I could have asked more questions. I could have demanded my name on documents. I could have walked away when the red flags started multiplying, but I didn't want to risk losing what I thought we had. The irony is that what I thought we had never existed in the first place. There's a Buddhist temple near my new apartment where I sometimes sit in the evenings, watching the monks go about their quiet routines. They don't ask questions. They don't offer advice. They just let you be present with whatever brought you there. I find that peaceful in a way I never expected. No expectations, no promises, no dreams to maintain or disappoint. Just the reality of sitting quietly while the sun sets over Chiang Mai. Sometimes I still think about her, wonder if she ever felt even a flicker of genuine affection for me, or if every smile was calculated, every conversation a performance designed to keep the money flowing. I'll probably never know, and maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is that I understand now what I was really paying for. Not a restaurant, not a partnership, not love. I was paying for the feeling that someone needed me, and for 6 months that feeling was worth every penny, until it wasn't.